If you've ever wondered why some mobile notaries are consistently booked at premium rates while others are stuck chasing low paying clients, it's not luck, it's strategy. It boils down to four key differences. High earning notary publics don't just take more appointments, they approach the business completely differently. They leverage automation, they price strategically with psychology, negotiate better, and use paid advertisements to create a consistent flow of high quality and predictable clients. Now, before we break it down, let's talk about a common misconception. Many notaries assume that financial success and stability is just a numbers game. The more signings you take, the more you make. But this mindset often leads to burnout, exhaustion, and financial instability. Think about it. If you're constantly underpricing yourself, you're relying on these signing services and taking whatever comes your way, then you'll always be in this fluctuating cycle of feast and famine. Some weeks you're drowning in work, doing things every single day. Other weeks you're just sitting at home, basically wondering where your next appointment or your next signing is going to come from. This is exactly why high earning notaries they take a different approach. They prioritize stability, consistency, automation, building a system that brings in clients predictably on autopilot rather than chasing one off jobs. They treat their business like a business, not a side hustle. Hey everyone, Tekk Amaku here, and in today's presentation, I want to share four key differences I've noticed throughout my years in the notary industry. Differences that separate typical mobile notaries from the high earning professionals. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a typical notary, but if you're wondering why some notaries are struggling while the others are like consistently booking high paying clients and being able to charge high rates, I've been there. I used to take whatever came my way, whatever I could get, thinking that more appointments meant more money. But the reality is, I was just working more and doing overtime more and working harder and not working smarter. And that's why I stopped paying attention to what everybody else were doing. And once I figured it out, my entire business changed. So let's get into it. I used to look up to and admire the high earning notaries, those who consistently booked the $150, 200, or even the $300 appointments. And they seemed to just have a system that was producing a steady flow of clients and ultimately the financial stability that I just, for some reason, just couldn't seem to reach. And at that time, I was taking whatever signings that I could get, relying on signing services, charging $35, sometimes 65 if I was lucky. The problem, my income was completely inconsistent. Some days I was booked and I was getting a ton of calls, but other days just nothing. And no matter how many signings I did for so and so signing company, the same signing service, I always felt like at the end of the week, in the beginning of next week, I was starting at zero, completely starting from scratch. It was a hugely competitive time. In the environment I was in, it was oversaturated. In my area, there were just over 880 other notaries who offered the same service. They were all hoping that the signing service or any type of client would just choose them. And to make any real money at those rates, $35 and $65, you had to grind through the high volume and the low paying appointments just to keep up. And I found myself stuck in this constant fluctuating cycle. Some weeks I was drowning in work, other weeks, completely nothing. And here's the worst part, I was exhausted, burned out. I was putting in long hours for barely barely enough to get by and pay the gas or pay the bills. And then when the calls stopped coming, I was back right at square one where I started. No clients, no income, and then ultimately no stability. And there I was, stressed out and worried about whether I'd even be able to pay my bills that week. I remember thinking to myself, this is not the kind of life that I got into this business for. This is not the reason why I wanted to become a notary, just to trade one kind of financial instability for another kind of financial instability. After I got terminated from my day job, I never wanted to worry about ever getting fired ever again. I wanted control. I wanted stability. I wanted a real business and not just a side hustle. But 6 months in, that was not happening. I was stuck. That's when I started paying attention to the notaries who were actually making it work. The ones who weren't scrambling for last minute signings or begging signing services or signing up for these listings directories for jobs or bragging about quote unquote going direct as if that was the ultimate top of the mountain prize. Technology had changed the way business was done and the behaviors of clients everywhere. And here's what I know because of my time spent in healthcare: you want clients coming to you. People like Andre Hatchett, Tiger Toledo, and Cam Combs, who had systems, they had marketing, clients were coming to them. And once I saw what they were doing differently, I knew I had to make a change. Fast forward, I wasn't just watching people like Andre Hatchett and Tiger Toledo and Cam Combs. I was working alongside them and I was learning directly from the best in the industry. Early on, I reached out to many notaries. I was hoping to get some type of insight, and the notaries locally I talked to about how to actually build a profitable business. But most people, they responded because most notaries are true professionals, but they were charging pennies. 100% of their work came from SnapDocs and sign services and third-party companies. They had zero private clients, and that's exactly what I did not want because those third-party companies could fire you, and I did not want that. So, what could a a notary possibly teach me that was charging pennies and getting 100% of the work from SnapDocs? What could I even learn from them? But one person did stand out, Tiger Toledo. And that conversation I had with him changed everything. I read his book, The Rise of the Smart Notary, and I started learning about pricing. I started learning about automation, marketing, how to create systems where clients come to you instead of you constantly chasing business. And once I saw the difference that it made, there was no going back. And Andre C. Hatchett, he didn't just give me advice, he actually met up with me in person. And see, not many people know this story. He stayed at my house with me and he broke it all the way down. How to manage my phone so I never miss a phone call, how to screen clients to avoid the people who are tire kickers and time wasters, where do you advertise, and how to attract high paying direct business from Google, and a bunch of other critical business moves that I had never even considered, like naming. Still to this day, one of the best decisions I ever made. That experience completely changed my mindset. It's why, even to this day, I'm such a firm believer in giving back to this industry and sharing real, actionable knowledge with other notaries that actually work and showing the proof on video of all these recommendations, like phone calls and live appointments. Because before that moment, I had spent about 3 months struggling, taking low paying clients and these signings and getting paid 41 days later, barely making ends meet, barely be able to put gas in my car. And once I saw how things really, really worked, there was no way I was going back. Seeing successful notaries like Andre, Tiger, and Cam, they showed me that there was another way to do this business in a way better way than just relying on sign services, title companies, and having to pivot every 6 months to different industries that had nothing, absolutely zero to do with notary, like field inspections, like wedding officiants, like permit running, like mystery shopping. And Cam and Tiger and Andre, they were the first ones who actually were willing to help me get there. I learned a lot from those experiences. And in the years since then, I've been fortunate not just to build a successful notary business, but to connect with and be mentored by these same high earning notaries that I once looked up to, like Dre, Tiger, and Cam. So now let's get into it. So these are the four key differences that separate typical mobile notaries from the high earning professionals. These are the exact strategies that allow the top earners to charge premium rates without hesitation, attract and retain the high paying repeat clients, and also run their business with less stress, more stability. And once you understand these four differences, you'll never look at this industry. And notice I did not say the business. You'll never look at this industry the same way again. Because all these things, the higher rates, the no low paying appointments, and the consistent clients and these high value quality bookings, they all lead to what you're looking for, which is ultimately financial stability. Aren't we all? And that brings us to the first key difference, which is high earning notaries. They place a high priority on booking appointments. When I was stuck in the low paying game, I wanted more appointments because I thought more appointments at the same time would be more income. But it was easy to miss calls, to turn down jobs, or to take days off because I figured if I'm getting more and more appointments, there's always going to be another appointment, another signing right around the corner. And technically, that was true. But here's a problem. When you treat bookings as optional, clients, they in return, they treat you as somebody who is replaceable. And because my income was so inconsistent, I found myself pivoting to other side hustles every couple of weeks just to make the ends meet. Like one minute I was a notary, and then the next minute I'm doing gig work, I'm delivering food, and then I'm looking at Lyft, and then DoorDash, and then UPS, and then I was looking for something else just really to fill the gaps. Meanwhile, the high earning notaries, they had systems that kept their phones ringing and kept their calendars booked, and they didn't have to scramble for just the next income check. So, high earners, they don't just hope for appointments, they actually make sure that it happens. And here's the truth, there is always another signing request around the corner. There's always another person who needed a notary. Even when it was slow, I always figured another signing will eventually come. I mean, because of that, it was this weird sort of paradox that emerged. I wanted to work, I wanted to make money in this business. That means you take on the most jobs, the most signing orders. But I truly didn't value them. You see what I'm saying? I didn't prioritize the signings that I knew I needed. I wanted the signings that suited me and my schedule. I wanted the appointments that only came when I was available, and I turned them down whenever they didn't. Meanwhile, the high earning notaries, they weren't waiting for signings just to show up. They were making sure that their calendars were full. Everybody knew that even if you went a week without taking any signings, that there would always be another one just waiting for you whenever you were ready to start again. If you took a month off or took weeks off because you were burnt out, then you could just come back on, turn on the apps, and then you'd be okay. And honestly, it wasn't wrong. It was actually very, very true. In this industry, there will always be more clients and low paying signing services, low balling title companies, especially when you're playing around in the low paying end of the market. But here's a real problem. There will always be more and more notaries as well. See, it's a double-edged sword. And just like in any oversaturated industry, when the supply is high and the prices are super low, the competition it gets bloody and brutal. If you go online right now and search notary near me in whatever city you live in, you'll find hundreds of options. Check a listing or a directory like SnapDocs or Notary Rotary, 123 Notary, Notary Cafe. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. You'll see dozens, hundreds of notaries all waiting for the same signing. They're all claiming to be professional. They're all claiming to be reliable. Everybody's on time. Everybody is having attention to detail. And of course, the clients, they want what they want when they want it, especially the ones who are shopping based on the price. But here's the problem. Clients don't know about these directories. They don't know about SnapDocs. They don't know about Notary Cafe. The signing services do. The private clients, these clients, they're not looking for your expertise or your level of professionalism. Law firms are not looking for your attention to detail. They're looking for the cheapest and the fastest option that they can get right now. And when you compete only on the price, you're stuck in this hole, racing to the bottom, fighting for like the lowest paying work, surrounded by a flood of other notaries who, if you take 50, they'll take 45. And if you take 45, then they'll take 30. They'll just take less and less and less. It's a race to the very bottom. This is exactly what most clients who search through 123 Notary or other directories, what they're looking for, the cheapest possible notary available. And here's what will happen. I would take off time from doing signings like 2 days, 3 days even, because I was burned out because of the car was needed new oil or I needed to go get the new tires. I would take a day off and not be able to take so many signings. I felt like because I had a decent week, I could take a break, or because I had a good day, I could take a little bit of a break. And then I come back and I'd be needing to make more money. But suddenly then it would be slow and then the signings wouldn't be there. I didn't have repeat clients because I wasn't always available when they needed me. So they went elsewhere. If they needed something, they just went and got it done. And since I had no consistent income, I found myself driving Lyft, picking up these side gigs and doing thumbtack and even searching for ways to almost get another job, re-enter the workforce just to cover my bills. I was stuck starting from zero all over again. Each time I took time off, I came back desperate for new clients, all because I did not have a repeat business to rely on. But I wasn't alone. Thousands of other notaries, they were in the exact same position. That's why you see so many people run into education and run into YouTube trying to be content creators. Gone are the days where there were way more clients than there were notaries. Now it's the other way around. There's about four notaries for every single client. Clients have endless choices. They can pull up a directory, they can scroll through listings, and they can pick from hundreds of notaries who offer the same exact service. And since I had no real system in place, I was just one of many, which man, I often didn't get the work when I needed it the most at the times that were most crucial. And of course, this always happened at the worst possible time when I needed the money the most. But I wasn't the only one. Every other notary relying on signing services, they were in the same exact boat, scrambling for signings at the exact same time, around the exact same time of the month, using the exact same strategies. I had no repeat clients to rely on because I hadn't prioritized them when they need me. So naturally, they just moved on. Now, compare that to the high earning notaries, the ones who treat every signing like it's a gold mine. I always wanted the financial stability and the time flexibility from this business. I knew it was possible, but I eventually realized those things, they don't just happen. You got to build those things. They have to come from hard work. You can't just take signings when it's convenient and you expect a steady income. You have to create the demand for your services first. So the high earning notaries, the ones that I studied, they did this incredibly well. They placed a high value on every signing that came through, and they treated every question like a potential long-term client. They didn't just take the work when it suited them and their schedule. They prioritized their business first so that true flexibility could come later. High earning notaries, they understand that every client is a potential repeat client. That's why, especially in the early stages of the careers, they do whatever it takes to secure a signing call. Even when it's inconvenient, they'll adjust their schedules, they'll move their personal plans around, they'll prioritize building their business over the short term comforts because they know that clients book based on their own schedules, not yours. Once a client books with you once and you provide a seamless, professional, outstanding experience, they'll be far more likely to adjust their schedule to book with you again. But if you miss that first opportunity, they'll just find another notary. Until a client has worked with you and experienced the excellence that is you, then you're easily replaceable. If you're not available, they'll just simply go to the next notary who is available. And here's what I've seen time and time again. High earning notaries, they put the bookings first. They know that every signing that they accept today is laying the foundation for a consistent, high value, high quality amount of work in the next day, the next week, and next year. They don't let personal convenience dictate their availability. They align their schedules with the client's needs. You see, because these notaries who prioritize the bookings, they build a stable, predictable business. The ones who don't, they stay stuck in this cycle of feast and famine and fighting over these $60, $50 lowball offers. That brings us to number two. High earning notaries assume every question is a potential client. When you spend all day dealing with lowball offers, tire kickers, price shoppers, and people asking, how much do you charge? Before you even pick up the phone, it's easy to become cynical. I can see how you get real cynical about this business. But here's the reality. When you put your number online, your business on Google to advertise, you will attract all kinds of questions. Some people, they waste your time. Some people, they'll never have any intention on booking you. But some people, they'll turn into like your best paying, most consistent repeat clients. High earning notaries, they don't assume that every question is a waste of time. They respond professionally the same way, every single way. They guide the conversation, they control the call, they filter out the serious clients from the people who are just kicking tires, and they don't let the frustration cost them the business. Because if you assume that every person, every call is a dead end, you'll start missing the high ones, the high value, high quality clients who they're ready to book. Is it fun dealing with low ballers and tire kickers and time wasters and price shoppers? No. Just like crying babies, they're not fun. Dealing with them. If you run a daycare or dealing with people who have questions, if you run a coffee shop and people returning food, if you run a restaurant, but that's the reality of the business, isn't it? I had an eye-opening experience that changed how I look at client questions. Months ago, I had a client who turned out to be one of my best high-paying customers. But when he first reached out, he started with a quote, and stop me if you heard this before. How much do you charge? That was the text message he sent. It was on Thumbtack. If I had ignored it, assuming that he was just another tire kicker, and even worse, because Thumbtack charges you for the lead in the beginning, and it had been several minutes before I had replied, if I had just ignored it, then I never would have closed this massive deal. That's when I realized not every single casual question is a dead end tire kicker price shopper. Some people, they just don't know really the right way to ask for a notary because they've never dealt with one before. But they're still serious about getting a notary. You're probably the first time that they've ever interacted with a notary. And the high earning notaries, they don't let that assumption cost them business. And high earning notaries, they know this. At the same time, I needed the work. I wasn't busy, and I decided to respond to this "how much do you charge?" question. And to my surprise, here's what happened. He turned out to be a genuine client. He actually looked for a notary to notarize 120 signatures. And he was asking for a quote because he had asked several different notaries. Now, check this out. Everything went smoothly with this appointment. And toward the end of the signing, it took about an hour and a half to do all of the signings. He was telling me that he was reaching out to several other notaries, and I had to ask him. I had to say, hey, he was already talking so much already. So I just asked him, hey, man, why did you send that message to like six different notaries like all at once? And his response was something that I'll never forget. He said, you ready for this? Quote, 99% of the time when I need a notary, I contact several of them and they never reply, ever. I used to put so much effort into reaching out to the notaries, but now I just want to know who's actually open and who is going to respond. So I send the same message to multiple notaries over and over again, and whoever replies first, that's the person who I book with. I was almost close to going to the UPS store, but you said something that stood out to me. And this is what he was saying to me. I told him that the UPS store would not, but they would not accept his appointment. And he said, you were right about that. So I called you back and I had to book you. I was floored, y'all. My jaw dropped because what he said made so much sense. How many times had I reached out to another notary because I wanted to outsource an appointment, I wanted to ask him a question, or maybe even collaborate, and I never got a response. I never received a reply. What happened to me was the same thing that happened to him. How many times had I contacted someone only to get a response days later or an hour later after everything had already been processed and I moved on? It happens a lot. The one conversation that completely changed the way I looked at calls came from a client. I had never thought about it from the client's point of view up to that point. It was in that moment that I had to ask myself, how many clients had I missed out on? Oh, it made me sick. It was so hard to think about that, but I knew that I had a starting point from now on. How many people had reached out? Could you imagine that we're ready to book, but because they said, how much do you charge? I gave them the cold shoulder. I ignored them, knowing that most people don't know how to interact with notaries because they've never had to get one. This is probably their first time ever interacting with one. So of course they were naturally inquisitive. I'm willing to bet the answer is a lot. I'm willing to bet that you probably ignored this question more than you care to admit. That day, I learned a hard lesson, and the lesson is that there's always another perspective. And in business, the client's perspective is a perspective that matters more than mine and more than yours too. From that day, I changed my approach. I started assuming that every single call, every question was a serious client until proven otherwise. Unless they say it's not, then I assume that that is a serious client. So what did I do? What did it do? It transformed my business. Because here's the truth: high paying clients are busy people. High quality clients, they value their time. Sometimes if they ask you, hey, how much you charge? It sounds like a price shopper tire kicker, but other times It's a serious client who simply they just want a fast way to book a notary. They just want a quick answer. Keeping it short for them is to be to the point, and it's really not about the disrespect. It's really about quick, efficient responses. And if you don't respond, then they'll just move on to the next notary who will respond. You see, now I get it. Shifting your mindset isn't easy. It's challenging, and it should be challenging to stop assuming that everybody who say, "Hey, how much do you charge? How much? What time do you open? Can I do a walk-in?" It's hard to shift your mindset to say that these people are not a waste of your time. But here's a reality: anything other than optimism, until proven otherwise, only hurts you. It hurts your bank account the most. Once I started replying to every call, my regular clients, the the book of business it grew. Once I started automating these calls and these responses, then it was nonstop from there. Why? Because I simply started seeing more clients because I stopped missing so many calls. And here's a fact: if you respond to 100 more signing requests, you'll get more bookings. It's really that simple. If you respond to 100 more signings, you'll get way more bookings because you simply respond. And when you get more bookings, you increase your chances of turning those one time clients into what? Repeat clients. And in case that's not clear yet and you don't believe me for some reason, regular clients, that means financial stability. That translates into repeat income. Isn't that what you were looking for? Financial stability? That's the key to breaking out of that feast or famine cycle. Which brings us to number three. High earner notaries understand the lifetime value of a client. Notaries like Tiger had an uncanny ability to attract high value clients. Most notaries, when they think of a premium client, they think about attorneys, law firms, they imagine title companies like nursing homes, real estate professionals, investors, agents, things like that. But here's the truth: a high value client isn't just about what this person does for a living, it's really about this: how often they need your service and how much they're willing to pay for consistency, or what my favorite C word is, confirmation. They're looking for confirmation that you can come. And Tiger, he had a different kind of client. He wasn't just working with these random one time signers. He had the type of relationship with the high quality clients who just like kept coming back. There was one regular of his, it was a doctor's office who moved money every single month, and he needed a notary that was on call. And this wasn't even Tiger's most profitable client. I remember talking to Tiger one time, and this client had called, and I knew his standard rate was about $200 per page. And yet, I watched as he closed or coordinated this long term deal, multiple document deal for a flat fee that made him almost $1,000. Now, when they got off the phone, I asked, "Why did you lower your rate for that client?" I think I knew the reason why, but I asked, "Did you realize that you had to have known that you were making less per signing?" And he basically shrugged and said, "Tech, that client has paid me $1,000 in the last 8 months. I'd rather have thousands over the next year than one $200 signing." And it was then when it hit me. At that time, I didn't have the business mindset to understand what he was talking about, but now I do. He wasn't focused on these one time transactions, these one offs. He was focused on the lifetime value of the client. And that's the difference between the high earning notaries and the ones who constantly chase the next appointment. Understanding lifetime value versus one-time transactions. Lifetime value means the total amount a client is worth to your business over time, not just what they pay for a single one-off signing. At the time, I prided myself on providing a great experience for every single client. But that conversation exposed a simple flaw in my thinking. While I was focused on delivering one excellent signing at a time, high earning notaries were focused on building a type of relationship that led to repeat business for months or even years. This is what we call a supporter, not just a client, not just a customer. And that's when they had the book of high value clients, long term clients, while others consistently just were starting over from scratch every single week. If you're still thinking about your time and your clients in this way, then you'll always be under pressure to always find more clients, more one offs, more appointments just to keep up. But let's compare this to the high earning notaries strategy. And let's pretend that their goal is to make $60,000 per year, part time, by the way. Now, let's say that this one client of theirs already spent $3,000 with them over the course of 6 months. And let's keep it conservative. We'll estimate by the end of the year, that same client that spent this $3,000 over 6 months, let's say they end up spending a total of $6,000. So that's $3,000 over 6 months, and then $6,000 over 12 months. But I have to say this, I personally know that this client has spent more money. Now, how many of those clients would a high earning notary need to reach in order to reach their $60,000 goal? Let's do some math. $6,000 divided by 60 is 10. So with just 10 clients, if your yearly value is $6,000 each, then they'd hit that target. And if the client continues working for them for 2 years at that same level, then that's 12,000 over the lifetime. So let's come back to the $60,000 goal. That's 10 clients compared to 60 clients. If you're thinking that it's going to be harder to attract 10 clients who's willing to spend 6,000 than 60 clients who's willing to spend just 1,000, then I like to challenge that thinking. Because while 6,000 is a lot of money, it's also an affordable amount for a professional that's earning well into six figures, many of whom they need reliable, like this doctor, they need reliable, high quality notary services and they need it on a regular basis and they don't have time to argue. To someone who places a high value on automation, technology, availability, ease of scheduling, paying $6,000 a year for a trusted notary is well worth it. Now, think about how much less taxing it is physically, mentally, emotionally to serve just six high value clients instead of just chasing down 60 one time, one off signings. Of course, the expectations and the service level for a client who spends $6,000 a year is going to be higher than the person who just spends 1,000. But here's the trade off. The trade-off is less volume, is more stability, is higher long-term earnings while you leverage the automation, you leverage the technology to make the process even smoother. And that's worth thinking about because not everybody wants a client base with high expectations. Yes, it comes with high expectations, but here's the flip side. Fewer clients. That's the flip side. Is more consistency, is steady, is the bookings are consistent, and it leads to far less income fluctuation. When you serve a fewer amount of clients and they're all higher value clients, you also have way more energy per client. So that means that you can afford to invest a little bit more time and be more patient with each client. And you can offer a way better service and it's noticeable, it's faster, and the experience is much more seamless. And that's why they continue to come back because of the consistency. The clients who pay a little bit more, They value the convenience, they value the professionalism, and they love above everything. They love the efficiency. They love you. They're not just looking for somebody who can just come and just do this and do that. They want somebody who can make their lives easier and do it responsibly. So the better experience you provide, the more likely you are to be able to keep this client coming back and keeping them coming back and hooking them. And this also increases the lifetime value that it is to what you offer in your business. I think about all the clients that I used to serve when I was charging $35 and sometimes $65 if I was lucky. I was thinking about all the constant hustling and the constant back and forth and the constant just problems that continue to keep coming up. And here's the problem. It's hard to deliver a really high level of quality experience when you're just running on fumes. And if you're used to delivering high quality, you can't deliver it if you're running just on life support. So I did my best. And if you're doing 5 signings, 6 appointments, 7 more appointments in a single day, you're racing from one appointment to the next appointment to the next to the next. By the time you get to the last client, you're like completely exhausted. And that's exactly why the high earning notaries, they focus on the premium clients. They focus on the automation. They leverage the technology so that they can focus just on the experience itself and that they're not exhausted by the end of the day. So by serving a fewer amount of clients and by fewer amount, they're a little bit more high value. You can avoid the burnout and the exhaustion, and you can deliver a much better, exceptional experience every single time. And this is what keeps them coming back instead of them constantly chasing new providers and then you chasing after new appointments every single day. So if you're charging $50 per signing or less than that, but you rarely get repeat business, you rarely see the person twice, it's just a one off. What ends up happening is you're stuck in this one off transaction trap. So, for example, if your goal is to make $60,000 a year, that means you need to complete 1,200 signings. That's 1,200 people, 1,200 individuals, 1,200 separate appointments, 1,200 different clients. And understandably, most people, they can't attract that many people. They don't know 1,200 people. And that's why hitting that particular type of income goal with that particular low price with a high volume, that's so difficult and it's challenging. And by the time you try it, you're burnt out. But on contrast, if you charge significantly more than that and you are a high earning notary, then you don't play that game. You play a different type of game. Instead of the grinding through the endless one offs and the simple transactions, they focus on the repeat clients. They focus on the automation. They focus on the premium service. And then this is allows them to hit that income goal without burning out. Now, last but not least, item number four. Number four, a strong why. The foundation of a high earning notary business. Everyone wants to earn more money. We all desire financial freedom and financial stability. Try to find a notary who doesn't want more flexibility, more control, more stability, more freedom. Keep looking because you won't. Of the hundreds of notaries that I've come across over the years, all of them, every single one of them wanted to raise their rates. They wanted to attract high paying, high quality clients. They want to break out of the low paying, low ball, tire kicker, sign in service reliability, high volume, overworking, overtime. They didn't want that. But wanting it isn't enough. The notaries who actually succeed are the ones who have a strong why. Without the why, it's just too easy to stay stuck in the same cycle. But here's the thing, most people don't. And here's the reason why. Wishing for the success is not the same as having the clear goal and the burning commitment to achieve it. Tony Robbins, he said it best. If you sincerely want to change your life, raise your standards. What changes people is when their shoulds become must. Anybody, once they know what to do, they can put these three principles in action: prioritizing high value bookings, optimizing their response strategy, focusing on the repeat clients and the lifetime value of the clients. But knowing isn't enough. The notaries who succeed aren't the ones who say, I should just charge more. They're the ones who say, I must charge more. When you really want to learn something, you find a way to figure it out, don't you? Success in this business isn't about luck, it's all about persistence. That's it. But back when I was trying to figure that out, I reached out to so many notaries for guidance. None of them responded. Most of them, they wanted to be educators. But what exactly were they actually teaching? They could recite the same cliche advice that you could copy and paste from any type of notary website. Answer your phone, hand out business cards, blah, 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 marketing, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing, I never saw one of them show actual video proof of those methods working. That's one of the reasons why I really went deep and went hard into showing people how to answer the phones and how to conduct an actual appointment with real life clients, not just mock interviews or mock phone calls. Meanwhile, I kept searching because I wanted real answers. I wanted a documented, repeatable system that actually brought high paying clients, not just the theories that people copy and pasted and didn't have any proof. Because I had a strong why, it might sound cliche because everyone talks about finding your why, quote unquote, why these days. What's your why? But here's the truth: every high earning notary that I know that has broken out of that low paying, low ball signing service, relying on signing services, they all built real financial stability by using this one thing. They all have one thing in common. They understand their why. They know exactly why they're working hard. They know what they're working towards, and they just refuse to settle for less. High earning notaries, they all have this higher purpose. They know exactly why it's important for them to transform their business. Ultimately, they know how it's important to transfer their lives. And here's the real, real truth: it's never really an accident. It's not like one day you wake up with like a fully booked calendar and all the clients have all paid high amounts and the business is just running on automation. That doesn't happen. The way it happens is it's intentional. It becomes a commitment. It takes work. And here's the good news. You ready? Anybody can do it. And the longer you stay committed, the easier it gets because success and results, they all create momentum. When you set out to achieve something and you actually put in the work, a few things start to happen. Here's what happens when you commit to success. Number one, you learn. I can only share this because I learned it the hard way by actually doing it and I documented it. I didn't just read a book or I didn't just hear about it on a podcast. I actually went through it. I made the mistakes, a lot of them. But those mistakes, they helped me figure out why these strategies actually matter. Number two, learning leads to knowing. When you truly learn, you really gain real knowledge and not just information. When you know better, you really do better. When you do better, you actually get better results. And that's the difference between struggling and thriving notaries that are in this business. Success creates more success. Results create resources and opportunities. The more successful you are, the more people want to work with you, the more opportunities that present your way. People want to attach themselves to successful people. When you start seeing real results, it does more than just boost your confidence. It gives you more resources and doors open. More resources equal more tools, better marketing, higher quality clients. More opportunities equal more referrals, stronger business relationships, more control over time, more stability, everything. What happens when you have more results and more resources and more opportunities? What happens? Overall, your quality of life improves. Number four, success fuels bigger goals. When you feel good from success, you don't stop. You actually do something that may surprise you. You set bigger, harder goals. It doesn't stop. And now you actually have the ability to achieve them. And that's why the bigger goals bring bigger rewards, which again increases your quality of life. This cycle just keeps repeating. And if you're willing to stay in the game long enough to stay in the pocket to make it happen, you'll see it. You'll experience it. You will experience it. And this cycle is perpetual, it's self-fulfilling. Learn, know, achieve, increase the quality of your life. Success is a self-fulfilling cycle. And this cycle, it feeds itself. You learn, you know, you achieve, your quality of life improves, you set bigger goals, and then you do it all over again. But here's the thing, it all starts with a clear reason for doing it. You see, because this business, it will test you. Life has a funny way of giving you the answer first and then the test second. There will be moments when it's hard, frustrating, it's painful. Now, I love sharing all my wins, but because they inspire us and they uplift people. But don't get it twisted. I've had plenty of failures, plenty of nights where I thought I was doing it wrong and having to go back to the drawing board. I've dealt with the clients who ghosted me, who tried to lowball me or underpay, or the one time that I'd like to share the what I call like the New York story, the New York Russian story, where a guy just flat out scammed me and didn't pay me at all and almost risked me losing my job. I've shared that story a number of times. I've seen other notaries talk big, but they refuse to share their real strategies. Well, probably because they don't have the strategies, which is really what I think, because there is no competition. There really is no competition with each other. Seriously, there isn't. Or worse, they discourage other people from charging their worth. You ever see that? Notaries who say you should charge $60, $50, $20. You should take low amounts of money. That's crazy to me. I've dealt with these unsupportive people. These people, they don't believe in you, and they didn't believe in me when I was in their space and in their buildings. And of course, there's a constant stigma that if you're a notary, that you should be happy just to make a little bit extra money instead of running a serious business. That's a real sentiment that's out there. You should just be happy to take whatever you can get. But here's the truth, when you know exactly why you're doing this and what you're working towards, every challenge becomes worth it. It's never easy. Nothing is easy, of course, but the struggles, they become worth it on the road to a real success story. That's why whenever I speak to a notary who wants to break out of the low ball, low paying cycle, want to get away from the signing services, if they want to charge more, they want to attract high paying clients, they want to build an actual automated business, a real business instead of just doing signings and just taking quotes. Man, I start with this crucial question. I ask them, I look them right in their face and I say, why? Why push for more when you could just keep taking the $50 signings from SnapDocs? Why would you change what you do and do something differently and you can just continue doing what you're already doing? Like, why do you need to know an answer for yourself? Because your answer to that question, why, if it isn't strong enough, the first time a client questions your price, the first time you get a slow week or a slow month, the first time somebody cancels an appointment on you, the first time you get hit, that's the first time the doubt starts to creep in. And then you fall right back into those same habits that kept most notaries stuck. Otherwise, the first time a client tries to haggle your price, you'll start second guessing yourself and lower your rates right back down where you started. Or what's worse, you'll actually keep bouncing in and out of the business. No consistency, all these disruptions. One month you're in, the next month you're not even answering the phone, you're not even taking signings. I've had plenty of people disappear and then they pop back up asking for appointments when I outsource appointments. It happened today. One person just happened today. Haven't heard from her in 2 months. And now she just pops back up saying that I'm available this weekend. Where were you last month? Always half in, half out. Because let's be real, this business, unlike when you're doing it like a business, it's not easy. No business is easy. Not just because of the competition, it's not the pricing, it's not the slow months, the slow weeks. It's because self-employment, when you make money outside of a traditional job, that's never an easy thing. You have to persuade or help get people to open up their wallets and give it to you. It's not easy. It takes some skills, takes some overcoming some obstacles. There's a reason why most people choose the 9 to 5 life and steady. It has a cap paycheck, it's predictable, it's safe. But there are people who don't want to go that route. There are notaries who do succeed at a high level. They don't want safe, they want control. The difference between the two is very distinguishing. It's stark. Safe versus control. And that's what makes the difference. So here are my final thoughts. Why are you doing this? So if you are in this business and you know you want more income, more control, more high paying clients, then ask yourself, why? And more importantly, is this a must or is it a should? Because there's a difference between the two. I must charge more money, not, oh, I should charge more money. Because if it is a must, then success isn't a question of quote unquote if, it's a matter of when. And if you're serious about leveling up your notary business, then book a demo with Sabrina AI today. See how automation, pricing strategies, smarter client acquisition strategies can transform your business, and leveraging the technology that exists today, especially for a one person show, a one man, one woman operation. And if you want to see exactly how to make it happen, book the demo with Sabrina AI today. The link is down in the description below, or you can contact us at heysabrina.ai. That's HEYSABRINA.ai. Thanks for watching, and I hope to speak to you soon. Good luck in your notary business.